Afternoon. That is David Guetta and Justin Bieber with To You. It gives me a great pleasure and delight to welcome to the show Mr. Timothy Chalamet. Thank you for coming on.
And thank you for having me. Cal, I'm borrowing everything you're wearing at some point. Dude, I'm just getting into rings and I'm like, look at all those rings.
I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 on at the moment. Yeah. You got the one?
I've got one.
See, so it's kind of...
I'm building up.
Be like the master and the Padawan.
But you were telling me about the ring god at the top of Ring Everest.
Yeah. Now, once you've hiked up there, you spend a couple of hours with a ring shaman.
With who's like the most iconic ring wearer ever?
Keith Richards.
Keith Richards is at the top.
He's up there. He'll give you like a little ceremony, and then we'll go off
and then go off and wear your rings, young one. Wear them proudly.
Timothy, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Man, thank you for having me, and awesome to be able to do this with someone that, am I allowed to ask how old you are?
Yeah, no, I'm 23.
No way, dude, I'm 23.
When's your birthday?
The 27th of December.
Oh, okay.
How about you?
I'm 31st of August. Okay.
So if you're born in August, you know when that means you were conceived?
Wait, yeah, December, when I was
born. So
when were you being conceived?
In March.
Do you know where your parents were in March?
I don't know, but my sister's born in January, so apparently they were... That was their time of year. No.
I mean, what a topic of conversation.
No. Sorry.
No, but no, we are here. First of all, for people listening, I mean, people may have seen you in Lady Bird. Homeland was massive here.
Hey, thank you.
But of course, Call Me By Your Name, and as very well deserved, the Oscar nomination last year, which, by the way, congratulations, Timothy.
Man, thank you.
And what also is exciting, again, is the film we're here to talk about today, Beautiful Boy, which is based on memoirs from Nick Sheff, who you play, and your dad, David Sheff. They both wrote a kind of memoir each, and this story is kind of a collaboration of the two, really. And yourself and Steve Carell. Steve Carell, I think, is just one of the best, and I think for our audience as well, they won't have seen him in this type of role, that more vulnerable, kind of serious and, dramatic performance.
Yeah, thank you for, and I like that you pointed it out like that, because you guys have a lot of incredible actors on this side of the pond, and we do too on our side, but he's really one of our best, Steve Carell, and he's one of our best because he's so excellent with his dramatic acting, whether it's Foxcatcher or The Big Short or Vice that's just come out in the States too. But look at his comedy too, and I know you guys have your office, so I don't want to step on any toes. But what can I point to? Anchorman. That's a good one. That's a good comedy one. I mean, he can do it all, and this is about addiction. This is meant to be a mirror of what, as well as in England, but a lot of people in America are going through right now, and tragically, a lot of young people. In the movie, it's methamphetamine. It's the substance that my character Nick is addicted to, but generally, it's opiates, it's heroin, it's people that get into heroin from opiates. And there is still an enormous stigma and taboo and shame and a general feeling that when people get addicted, they were weak or they made a choice or they're on one big euphoria party trip or something. When the reality of it is people are in a lot of pain. People that are addicted are maintaining appearances for the most part. Yeah. And most people don't want to be using to that extent. And when people get sober, it is about the hardest thing in addition to or independent of detoxes, depending on what drugs you're getting sober from. The process of being sober is a day at a time. I think there's a thing with our movie, some audiences, I don't want to spoil anything, but they want a big thumbs up at the end of the movie or they want a big thumbs down. They want it to end really tragically or with a huge musical flourish or something. That's not what the reality is. It's a day at a time. Philip Seymour Hoffman was sober for over 2 decades or something before he relapsed. No one's so self-congratulatory or whatever to be like, we have a solution. There isn't one. But a minuscule, tiny little step is to be able to talk about it and not associate it with shame and with the other, but rather with the hour or something.
Yes. It's heartbreaking, really. I think a lot of people go into this film with their preconceptions of stereotypes of what we think it is to be an addict and what it is to go through. This film, for me, flips all that on its head, and you see the side of it that we don't think about. When you were approaching this, and am I right in saying you met Nick?
I met him, and it's the way he's described in his dad's book, Beautiful Boy. He's someone who's light, with a light sense of humor, who is jovial, and does not have addict written across his forehead. I have a notebook that I keep for all my roles, basically, and for this role, I had looked for the light at the top of every page because, as you said, we know the horrors, even generally, even society, in a society way of addiction, we get how negative it is. What's maybe even scarier is the idea that there's no face to it. It can affect you if you're rich, if you're poor, if you're a man, if you're a woman, regardless of your ethnicity. It's amongst us, and that's uncomfortable.
Now, the way this is going, I could not play any music, I think, for the next 15, 20 minutes. But we are a radio station, so we're going to play some 21 Pilots, and myself and Timothy will continue our chat on the other side of this. 21 Pilots with Ride on BBC Radio 1. It is my great pleasure to say my special guest on the show today is Timothy Chalamet. We are talking all about the wonderful film Beautiful Boy, which is out now. It is a film that explores the relationship between a father and son. It explores addiction. It explores unconditional love. Well, first of all, what did you learn about the real relationship between, Nick and David?
Again, not in a general sense, but it is a father and son. It is a father who loves and cares deeply for his son. If there's something extraordinary about it, it's the lengths he was willing to go to save his son. There's this theme of tough love, too. A lot of families that deal with addiction, they have to draw a line at a certain point. You know, my character in the movie, Nick, I would hope to audiences it's complex because on one hand, he's a loving family member and he's jovial and light. On the other hand, he's literally stealing from his family. He's robbing the house. Things that are objectively horrible things to do. And to that point, David cuts him off at one point, and I won't say where that goes. But it's really interesting doing Q&As with David Sheff where people will ask him, like, what am I supposed to do basically with my kid who's addicted? Or you'll have people go, I did what you did. I cut my kid off, and he's dead. Because we did a Q&A with a young girl in St. Louis who really tragically is no longer with us from addiction. So there really is no formula to it. What is redemptive, I would think, if I'm allowed to say it, is the living human that is Nick Sheff. This is someone that was addicted to the most powerful substance in the world, methamphetamine, when he was young. In the movie, there are 4 relapses. In real life, he had 13 over the course of 7 years. He went on a book tour for the book and relapsed. And now he's been sober for 8 years. Mm-hmm. And he says it wasn't a white light. It wasn't this counselor that beat this thing into him. He says basically it was a little bit of this experience at this rehab. It was a little bit of this experience, a little bit of that conversation with this person, a little bit of that tenant that stuck with him. There is no black and white understanding to this. Yeah. There's a lot of horrible things in the world right now, but perhaps ironically, if there's something that we can all get behind, it's addiction because it affects everyone. There isn't a clear, distinct why. There isn't the lousy friend that got him addicted or the party he was at that was especially corrosive and terrible. And people are, they go, why? And not in a condescending way, but the why doesn't matter. The is matters. Mm-hmm. He's addicted.
Yes. Well, that's the line in the film when you're in the hospital and he says that I woke up and the doctor says, what's your problem? And you turn around and go, I'm an alcohol addict and I'm addicted to drugs. And the doctor turns around and goes, no, that's not your problem. That's how you're treating the problem.
Yes. I love that line that you pointed out because that's how Nick describes his first time using methamphetamine in his book. It's how a lot of people describe their first drink. If you go to meetings, people will describe watching TV shows like Mad Men or something, or, you see it in culture or iconography where you think, oh, this is cool. That's how cool people deal with stuff. Or not even cool, just how people, whatever. When the reality is, you don't want to walk that path, basically. And I heard this in a meeting, the difference between a problem drinker and an alcoholic is a problem drinker stops drinking and all his problems go away. An alcoholic stops drinking and all his problems hit him in the face.
Yeah. Was there anything, Timothy, that you learned through this process?
The humanity of it. It's not like somebody you see in the street or something that you can dissociate from and go, okay, thank God I'm not living that. The thought becomes, woof, where was the lack of love that led that person there? Or where were they not helped, or what, and it's just crazy there isn't like an alcohol or drug crash course for kids. But the first little tiny step is even right this second to be able to hopefully talk about it.
I'm so glad we have got to have this conversation. Thank you for coming in. Thank you for your time.
Man, thank you.
Yeah, let's keep in touch. Let's go ring shopping.
We're going to go ring shopping.
Yeah, we'll climb that. We'll go see Keith on the mountain.
Yes.
And we'll see where we end up.
Radio 1.